Well, welcome. Doris and I are delighted that you all could come here today, and we're very grateful for the assistance that we received to build our new barn. My family has been tied to agriculture for many generations, and I believe that that will continue. My grandfather purchased this land about 67 years ago. I lived for 6 years, about 600 yards north in the house that Kate and Harley Cooker live in now. Uh, my grandfather had sold that property, and then we moved down to the farm on Noble Road. As I said, I love the farm, but unfortunately, an accident involving silo gas would delay that dream. We cleaned out a chicken house, and I started building cabinetry, and that business has grown to a business that employs about 40 plus people. The site of where the business is located is at 504 Rosemont Avenue in Acklen, and interestingly, that was a feed mill where I used to take corn to be processed into cow feed. As I always say, all good things come from the farm. Christiana Cabinetry sells our custom-made cabinetry across the USA, Bermuda, and to the United Kingdom. In the course of business, we have many clients, interior designers, and architects that come to visit the factory to see how we build our cabinetry. And it's my pleasure to bring them here to our home to provide them with a meal and experience this beautiful valley. I'm amazed at how interested people are in how cattle are raised and crops are grown. It's an opportunity to share a view of agriculture that most haven't heard of before. I share how we grow crops how we protect the. I share how we grow cover crops that will protect the soil from wind and water erosion while promoting microbial activity that improves soil health during the winter months. Crop rotation prevents the soil from being depleted of valuable nutrients. We test our soil to give us insight in the proper fertilization practice. I recently rented a farm from a neighbor that has several areas where water runoff is a problem, and I look to work with the district to create a plan to prevent this from happening. The pastures are managed in a way that the animals are moved to every few days to fresh pasture. And while it's a lot of work to move the fences, it brings a lot of satisfaction to see the cows racing towards me to be in the fresh grass. As I mentioned earlier, it's a story that we're able to tell people that they probably haven't heard before. Thank you for making this barn a reality. It will provide better conditions for the animals in the winter, as well as proper storage of manure until spring and fall. I'll be able to monitor the health of the animals and regulate the feed rates for the different groups of animals. Next year, I plan to begin migrating from Black Angus to full-blood Wagyu through embryo transplants. My good friend Wes, who is a chef that's preparing some tasty treats for today's event, has been encouraging me to move in that direction for several years. I was raised on a dairy farm that specialized in registered Holsteins, and the family was quite successful. Today, we announced that the name of our farm is now Enola Cattle Company. A few feet to the side of us is the Enola Rails to Trails, and for years had been the Enola Low-Grade Railroad. I'd like to thank several people who work with me and brought us to this point today. First of all, I'd like to thank Dennis Eby, my brother-in-law. He recently retired from the Extension Service. Dennis put me in touch with the Lancaster Conservation District. He did the nutrient management plan and tirelessly worked many years to convince me to plant cover crops. Adam Hartz from the Lancaster County Conservation District, thank you for answering the many questions I had and continue to ask throughout the process and working with me to get the application processed. You represent the district well and are a pleasure to work with. And Mark Myers, an architect who I've known for many years and a personal friend. Thank you for taking the time to review the plan, add those extra design touches that made the barn look unique and would relate well with the existing buildings. We're honored that you participated in this project. Salisbury Township, Michelle Neckerman, thank you for getting me through this process and answering, again, the many questions that I had. And I guess you're seeing a pattern here. I do ask a lot of questions. I'd also like to thank Jared Stossfuss from GR Stossfuss, the excavator. And I thank him for getting the site work done and working here on Friday and Saturday to get the landscape done and the grass planted. Chris Stossfuss from Whitehorse Construction. I appreciate all your suggestions and guidance that you provided along the way. Your comments on how the barn should be constructed so I'll be moving cattle when I'm 90 years old is well taken. Again, I've noticed a correlation between your visits and the price of the building increasing. Maria Hewlett, Strategic Contracting, thanks for assisting us with the event today and for getting Christiana Cabinetry involved with the 2023 Pennsylvania Farm Show, and Samantha Snyder from Tojo Mushrooms. Thanks for coming today and providing some tasty mushrooms that pair nicely with the beef that we've raised on this farm. And please stop by in the kitchen. We have some refreshments and treats for you there. And now it's my privilege and an honor to introduce Secretary Redding, Secretary of Agriculture.
Hey, Jerry, thank you. Jerry, thank you. Good morning, everybody. What an honor to be in Lancaster County and Christiana and to be on this farm. You know, I say often that there is comfort when you're surrounded by cattle, right? There is something comforting to know that the farm is in good hands, it's stewardship, it's productive. But I always appreciate to hear the farmer's story, right? The journey that each has gone through to arrive at this moment, to install new practices, to take significant leaps of faith, right? To make investments. And as Jerry was introducing those who've been part of this, let me add my thank you to you as well. Everybody here has a connection to this farm and to this project. And just a note of thanks that we will hear the word partnership several times today. But at the end of the day, this is a human story, right? It's a conservation story, but it is a person making decisions about the direction of their farm, their property, their vision for agriculture here in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. So to Jerry and Doris and family, thank you for that story, for being part of agriculture as well. Also want to extend a note of thanks to Lancaster Farmland Trust, who is here, and the team. Many folks were introduced, but just to say that Lancaster Farmland Trust, the work that they have done to really preserve the character and culture of this county, preserve these prime agricultural lands in Pennsylvania and here in Lancaster County. It is an amazing story. So note of thanks to you and to the Conservation District, who has their fingerprints on so much of this county and this farm as well. So thank you all. While not here, just want to say thanks to Denise Coleman and NRCS and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We could not do what we do in Pennsylvania in so many ways without the partnership of USDA and certainly the Natural Resource and Conservation Service. So to Denise, thank you as well. You'll hear from Carl Brown, the State Conservation Commission, in a moment, but again, this partnership that has been built over the years is really an extraordinary partnership. Everybody thinks they're normal, right? And you realize that if you step away just a little bit outside of Lancaster and outside of Pennsylvania, you realize that what we have here is extraordinary. It's not normal. The partnerships, the culture, the work, the agriculture the community, the sense of community that's here and the quality of life in this state is determined to a large extent by what we do in agriculture, right? It's both an economic enterprise, it's important obviously to the jobs and the environment, but it's also incredibly important to the quality of life in this state, in this community. And each of you is part of this partnership, part of the story that Jerry has told are critical to that. So we're here today to do a couple of things. One is to really hear and see firsthand the work of conservation, right? And as Jerry's laid that out, it's been sort of a transformation, an adoption of new practices, encouragement from so many folks to make bold steps to do more. And we'll see that, and we can see it certainly on the landscape here today. We also want to celebrate the collective conservation work that's done in Lancaster County and Pennsylvania. We want to celebrate that, right? We don't often pause long enough to say thank you to the farm and the farm families who are investing every day by way of their business, but they're also understanding well the economics of conservation and the work and responsibility that they have. We know that those roots of conservation and stewardship run deep in the agricultural community. It is part and parcel to being in this business. And third, we'll talk about sort of the resources and where did they come from and how do they get packaged in a way that allows for these types of projects to take place both here on Jerry's farm and the larger community, or I should say the Enola Cattle Company, right, as we are now terming it. So, but you'll hear about that today. But just like Jerry and Doris and the family, there are farms across Pennsylvania doing this type of work. It has really been gratifying over the years to watch the work of the districts, work of the Conservation Commission, the engagement with both our federal partners and our state legislature. While Representative John Lawrence is not here, a note of thanks to him. We're in his district, and he has been a great advocate. But as the legislature, both House and Senate, and the governor have been to make sure that we have the resources to work with. We recognize that the commitment that's required is important. We understand the will of the farm and the landowner is important. But even with all of that, these are complicated and expensive projects, right? The types of work that have to be done. So making sure we have the program support to invest in the priorities to make sure that the farm families of Pennsylvania can meet the co-equal goals of both water quality and viable farms. And we've said for many years that you won't get the first without the second. You can't. Right? It has to be a viable enterprise to make the investments, to generate the resources to put up as match in many cases. And that work is important. One of the programs that we were successful at including as part of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill back in 2018 and 19 was the Conservation Excellence Program. And you should know that here in the state, while, again, we think we're normal, we're the only state even after 4 years of work, that has its own state-level farm bill in the nation. Only one. We have more young farmers under the age of 35 than any other state in the nation. We lead in farmland preservation in the nation. So we stand here very humbly and note the work that's done, and that has been an incredible journey of many that allows us to celebrate the work of agriculture and conservation. One of those programs being the Conservation Excellence Program. I'll let Carl Brown and Chris Thompson talk about that, but just to say that it was a way for us to respond to the needs of high priority counties, Lancaster being one of them. It allowed us the flexibility to target funds to particular areas and projects. That was different in terms of its model, but it was also the way it was built, being able to use tax credits and AgriLink and conservation BMPs, the conservation district. So it has really been an amazing sort of journey of work that allows us today to talk about that. And you'll hear from Carl about the Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program, or ACAP, which was a significant development, again, modeled after and inspired by the Conservation Excellence Grant Program, the CEG, because it followed that model of targeting priority counties, priority practices. So you'll hear about that. Final point would be that we're making tremendous progress, right? If you just drive around a little bit, you understand that this landscape has changed in a very positive way. Cover crops, the contours, the conservation stewardship, the buffers that have been planted, the investments that are made, most importantly by the farm families first, and supported them by the district and our USDA and our state in so many ways. But at the end of the day, as I noted, that this is a human interest story, right? It's people making decisions about the work they're doing, where they see their legacy, their work, is really a great story for Pennsylvania. Some of you know the backstory of my father-in-law, but in the final days of his life, his name was Daniel. And I said, Daniel, what are you most proud of? In one of those private moments, he said, the conservation and the preservation of my farm. It wasn't me, it wasn't the family, so once you got over the shock, that wasn't about you. That's what mattered to him, right? And I think this world is full of Daniels, the people who care about the land, the work that they do, the stewardship of what they do while they're here, but it's also what they leave. And we can all be proud of the work of the Daniels and the Jerrys and all of the others here around Pennsylvania who are really doing an extraordinary job of protecting the environment, keeping agriculture viable for the state and this county. But they're doing that in full partnership. So one of the folks who has led the effort at the state for 27 years has recently decided to step down from that post. And Carl Brown, as our executive secretary of the State Conservation Commission, is here today. And again, he's one of these special people you meet along life's trail, right, that understand the importance of the work, are committed to public service, but always trying to find a way to get the work of conservation on the landscape of Pennsylvania. And Carl has done that. So very proud that Carl is here. I want to thank him for his 27 years of work in conservation and the State Conservation Commission. And also want to say thank you to Doug Wolfgang, who is here with us today, who spent 25 years in the department as our director of the Farmland Preservation Program, who is stepping in to pick up where Carl has left off. So Doug, thank you for the work in preservation and soon to be conservation as well. So thank you, Doug, and honored to introduce Carl Brown. Carl?
Thank you. Good morning. That's a tough act to follow. I don't know if you could hear it, but I was standing up here and I heard heavy breathing. I thought Chris was having a problem until I realized the cows were coming up behind us. But it's truly great to be here. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful location. And do appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the programs that we're looking at, the Conservation Excellence Program here today. But first and foremost, just Jerry and family, just thank you for hosting us here. Thank you for making the decisions to do the improvements and to do the conservation that you're committed to. And it's truly like the Secretary said that, this takes individuals making decisions about resources that they own and control and making those improvements. So to the Metzler family, just truly appreciate your hosting us here today. Appreciate the fine work that we see behind us, the great example that you set for others to follow. To the Lancaster Conservation District, to Chris and his staff that are here today. Our efforts at the Commission couldn't be successful if we don't have the districts that are standing beside us and doing the legworks and the boots on the ground. So to the districts and all the hard work that they do in all the programs, not just Conservation Excellence or ACAP that's coming up quickly, but just thank you to our conservation districts in Pennsylvania that do such a great job with the conservation technical outreach and education and assistance to farmers. This program in Pennsylvania, the Conservation Excellence Program, is operated in 7 counties in south central Pennsylvania. York and Lancaster were the first 2 to enter into this program about 4 years ago. But we also have worked with others in Cumberland, Bedford, Franklin, Center, and Lebanon counties. And it's been a great exercise over the last 4 years to get up and get running in a state ag BMP program that could help farmers and come alongside them and help them with the technical assistance and the financial assistance to do a heavy use protection area for these beef cows that we see behind us today. So appreciate the districts and all the hard work that they do and the great location that we have here today. We're sitting on the very edge of the Chesapeake Bay watershed in a beautiful location. And I think everybody has heard and read, and the Secretary mentioned, we have a lot of commitments in Pennsylvania to reduce nutrients and sediment across the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And a significant portion of that requirement falls on agriculture. So we need every operation that we can get to step up to do the kind of work that we're seeing here today, to manage nutrients better, to manage livestock better, to protect our streams, and to put cover crops out. All those things make a difference. And so the decisions and the construction that you see here today and the management that you see here today are all things that the Metzler family does to help improve not only the operation of their beef operation, but to protect the Chesapeake Bay, to protect local waters, and to meet those nutrient and sediment reductions that we do have. So with this storage and this heavy use protection, that will allow them to make better decisions, allow them to protect those resources. And, Metzler's just didn't do this because of the Bay commitments. They did it because, as the Secretary mentioned, because of the stewardship concepts that we have in Pennsylvania, that our farms always come back to, that it's the preservation, the protection of their farming operations that's vital to them and so important to them. So for your commitment, for your stewardship, we truly appreciate it. And we always say that our farmers in Pennsylvania are the original environmentalists. A little bit about CEG, Conservation Excellence Program. It's a part of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill. It was a unique program to the Farm Bill. It's, over the last 4 years, brought about $12.5 million to help us put ag conservation BMPs on the ground to protect water quality and to improve soil health. We've been able to have about $8 million of Pennsylvania funds go in that, and about $4 million of some federal funds that we're able to bring to the table. So we've worked with the 7 counties in south central Pennsylvania called the Tier 1 Counties in the Bay program. And we've taken these funds and we've block granted them down to our county conservation districts. And our conservation districts are truly the boots on the ground. They're the folks that go out and they contact and work with landowners. They determine what they would like to do. They look at the improvements that like to be made. They write the plans. They do the technical assistance. So the Conservation Excellence Program has been able to bring that higher level of technical assistance and financial assistance to those south central counties in Pennsylvania. So we're excited about it, and that model works. We do that in Conservation Excellence. We've done that same model of block granting money down to the county conservation districts to put them in the positions of making local decisions, making local choices, and providing resources at the local level where they're most needed. And so we're excited about the example that we have here in Conservation Excellence. And we're also excited in that we have an opportunity to take what we've learned in Conservation Excellence and apply it to a new program called the Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program. But in ACAP, in the last 4 years, with our county conservation district partners, to date, we've had about 137 applications. We've had about 100 of those or more that were approved as of August. We've awarded about $7.7 million in conservation funding for those projects. And to date, we have about 50 some of those projects that are completed. Looking ahead to ACAP, Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program, is a part of this year's state budget. It was part of a Clean Streams Fund that was established in Pennsylvania to do some historic work on agricultural and other non-point source pollution programs. So the type of work that you see here about managing livestock, managing manure, and managing nutrients and sediment, we have a new opportunity with our Ag Conservation Assistance Program to begin that all across Pennsylvania, not just in 7 south central counties in Pennsylvania. But we have an opportunity for about $154 million in funding to go statewide and to roll this program out. And again, we're going to go to our conservation partners, the conservation districts, working to set the program up between now and the end of the year, which is coming quickly, to be able to get them ready for early next year to be able to roll out the Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program. We will be block granting this funding down to county conservation districts. Their staff will be working with local landowners to identify projects, to receive applications, to rank those applications, and then eventually do the technical designs and the work that needs to be done to be able to go from a concept to a finished product like we see here today in this heavy use protection area. So we're excited, and I just want to again thank Chris and his staff. I want to stop and thank my staff. I have a number of staff that are here with me today. I have Eric Cromer, who's the Conservation Excellence Program staff that's with us. I have Justin Challenger, who's our Program Manager for Conservation Financial and Technical Assistance. And I have Doug Wolfgang, who'll be stepping into my shoes here at the end of this year and early next year. So I appreciate the staff that we have and the work that they do. And I appreciate the fact that we can be here on a beautiful day to look at this project and to look at another step forward in the Chesapeake Bay program, but more importantly, another step forward to clean water in this locality, clean water on this farm, in an operation that makes life easier for the farmer, more productive, and can be here for another 50, 100 years. And when Jerry's 90, he'll be coming out taking care of the cows, and it'll be easier on the cows, it'll be easier on him, and it'll be easier on the streams and the soils that we have around us. So thank you. And I'd like to take this opportunity, if I can, to introduce Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson's the manager of the County Conservation District in Lebanon. That's right. And he has an excellent staff and does not only ag work, but does a lot of work throughout Pennsylvania in non-ag work.
Thanks, Carl. Just to clarify, I'm the manager here in Lancaster County, not Lebanon, but I'll take credit for anything Carl sends our way. So yes, I'm the manager here at the Lancaster Conservation District. A lot of what I'm going to say you've heard already. And we didn't share our notes beforehand, but I hope that you'll use that as a sense to underscore just the same points. They're all so important and felt at every level of this project. So I think you, as has been referenced, every county in Pennsylvania has a conservation district except for Philadelphia. Each of those districts are managed by a volunteer board of directors. There are local leaders here in the county that care about the resources, care about their neighbors, care about the landowners, and they make decisions and bring programs to the county, to their respective county, to help encourage and facilitate those practices, conservation practices getting on the ground. They hire staff, and then they help those staff to make sure that they are accomplishing the goals and objectives of the board. On November 11th, the district, Lancaster Conservation District, will be celebrating our 73rd year of existence. So we're pretty excited by that. We have 36 staff, Adam Hartz being one of them, who helped Jerry and family build or design and build the barn structure behind us. But we have 36 other staff, 35 other staff who are doing the same kind of work throughout the county. In the early days, the conservation districts were really focused in on minimizing that soil erosion, keeping the soil in the field so that you could continue producing crops. Today, we still care very much about minimizing soil erosion, but we've recognized that added benefit. If the soil stays in the field, it stays out of the stream and keeps the crop producing, but also keeps the streams healthier because it keeps the soil in the field and keeps the nutrients where they belong, where the plants need them most. As was referenced, Carl mentioned that the state has a goal of cleaning up our part of the bay. Lancaster County is responsible for about 22% of achieving that goal. That's a really heavy lift. One county throughout the state responsible for 21, almost a quarter of that overall goal, cleaning up the bay. We have 12 major watersheds, 1,800 miles of streams. More than 80% of those are declared impaired. It's projects like this that help us get one step closer to delisting those streams, to correcting years of pollution that have gotten to the stream. And it's all because of farmers, operators, landowners like Jerry and his family to do that hard work of making decisions, making commitments to doing what's right on the ground. We have many other valuable partners. Carl mentioned, and Secretary Redding mentioned, different federal and state partners. It's also those local boots on the ground, right? The Conservation District is here to do our work, but we can't do it alone. There's many other partners. Just in this project alone, I think I counted about 15 different players who have had some role, whether it's the municipality, the builders, the Farmland Trust, or Team Ag, or Red Barn, the consultants in our area. Every project that gets put on the ground has a significant team of partners that all pull together to help accomplish this very important work. As important as those team players are, it really comes back to the landowner making that first decision, wanting to do what's right, creating a legacy of farming and agriculture here in the county. It really is critical to having willing landowners to accept the programs and the funding and the assistance that we're here to provide. Carl referenced ACAP and CEG. We throw around acronyms a lot, but they are significant funding programs that the SEC, that the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture and the State Conservation Commission have created to help farmers get more done. So we're thankful for that. It is that kind of partnership that really gets conservation on the ground. And we see it as a critical investment in that ongoing work. You know, Jerry and his family are one of 5,100 farms in the county. So it's a significant workload. We know or have record of about 3,800 in our own office. But it takes that willing landowner. It takes us reaching every landowner, and when I say us, that broader partnership, reaching every landowner and getting them on the same page, doing the hard work of getting the projects on the ground. So it's that partnership, the willing landowner, the available funding, the cadre of partners, conservation partners here locally helping to get work done. You may have heard reference the county action plan, which is the result of Pennsylvania's effort to clean up the bay. Every county had to create a CAP, or a countywide action plan, back in 2018. And we're getting ready to submit that updated plan for 2023. We already have 47 projects on that list, and that's just a drop in the bucket. It totals over $47 million as well. So when we talk about willing landowners, the need for money, those ongoing partnerships, it really is a constant effort, a constant movement forward to getting things done on the ground. A project like this could take 2-3 years or longer to go from concept to actually an event like this where you're showcasing it. That's how it is with every project. And there's a time commitment, a willingness of the landowner, that attitude of creating a legacy that goes forward. And Lancaster's well known for that. Under Carl's leadership, we haven't always agreed on everything, Carl, right? But at the end of the day, we shake hands, and we're able to come away because we can see the collaborative effort, that getting things done. It does require that teamwork. So we've enjoyed working with Carl. We look forward to working with Doug in the future and the SCC staff, and continue getting more done on the ground, because it is the success that the state needs Lancaster to be successful. So we look forward to working with them to help get more done, more on the ground, to help achieve those collaborative goals that are so important for not just cleaning up the bay, but cleaning up our local streams, creeks, rivers, and waters. So again, thank you for the time today. Thank you to the Metzler family for making that hard decision, and for that commitment to creating a legacy of conservation here on this farm and throughout their community. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Hey, Chris, thank you. And again, just to end where we began, with a simple thank you, right, to Jerry and Doris and Kent and Carl, the family here. Thank you for hosting. Beautiful spot. And each time you sort of stand still, you think it doesn't get any better than the sun shines, right? And then we're going to leave here and walk about 100 feet and have some Chris Stolzfus kind enough to bring, I think, your daughter, right? Some whoopie pies, some pumpkin spice. So what's not to like about this? But just a note of thanks to Chris and Stallsfoos and the White Horse Construction. Thank you for the good work, beautiful work that you do. But just as we scan around this group, just to say thanks to Carl again for the work that he's done over the years, continues to do, the expectations and sort of the bar that he has set. Thank you, Carl, for that work over the years. To the Conservation District, who's been an incredible partner here in Lancaster County and across the state. To the Farmland Trust here in Lancaster County, and to each of the folks who have played a role, not just in this project, but every day making Pennsylvania agriculture a better place, right? We are challenged certainly to reduce the nutrients in our watershed, but as I often say to our colleagues in this watershed, I would not trade that for a moment. Why? Because of what we have. Right? When the Susquehanna River cuts through the most productive agricultural sector, we understand that we have an obligation to address the nutrient loads. But it also provides an incredible opportunity for us to demonstrate both the goal of water quality and the goal of a viable agricultural enterprise. And they are not incompatible. The success for us will be demonstrated by the work that we continue to do, but also demonstrate to both this region and nation that you can, in fact, have a good environment, clean water, and viable farms. And that is the foundation. It's the bedrock of a functioning society. So very proud of the work that we are doing, and thank you to Lancaster County here as well. To all the partners, even if they are brother-in-laws, right, that help make the case, thank you for that influence. To each of the team that's here, thank you for the work that you've done. And I look forward to the work that continues with the State Conservation Commission, with the Lancaster Conservation District and districts across the state in the implementation of the ACAP program, as well as the new resources under the USDA and our Conservation Excellence Program. So with that, thank you all for being here. Very much appreciate Jerry and family hosting today. Thank you. Realize that if you step away just a little bit outside of Lancaster and outside of Pennsylvania, you realize that what we have with what we do in agriculture, right? It's both an economic enterprise, it's important obviously to the jobs and the environment, but it's also incredibly important to the quality of life. And this encouragement from so many folks to make bold steps to do more, and we'll see that, and we can see it certainly in the landscape.
Better conditions for the animals in the winter, as well as proper storage of manure until spring and fall. I'll be able to monitor the health of the animals and regulate the feed rates for the different groups.
Making